Welcome aboard, Grade 7. Now you're here to our virtual classroom for this grading. At the end of this lesson, I'll hope you'll find some interest, gain more knowledge, and have a great day to enjoy and learn more about science. But before we proceed to our lesson proper, let me introduce myself. I am Teacher Neal.
And I am Teacher Kim. For our today's lesson, we're gonna be talking all about eclipses, and it's two types, the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse. But first, let's talk about eclipses. Eclipse is a Greek word that means cease to exist. It occurs when one planetary or celestial body passes into the shadow of another. It happens when an astronomical object passes between another celestial body and the viewer. From Earth, there are two main types of eclipses. First is solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse. But first, let's talk about solar eclipse. Solar eclipse, it occurs when the moon passes in front of the sun, blacking it out partially or completely. Meaning, solar eclipse happen when the sun is blocked by the moon. The moon shadow falls on the earth and appears as if the sun has gone dark. As you can see in this picture, the position of the three celestial bodies is the sun, moon, and earth. These umbra, penumbra, and atumbra are the three main parts of the moon shadow during an eclipse. First, umbra, or the total eclipse, it is the portion of the moon shadow where the moon completely covers the sun. Penumbra, or the partial eclipse, the area of the shadow where only a portion of the moon is in front of the sun. And the atumbra, or the annular eclipse, it is beyond the point of the umbra. Here, the moon is completely in front of the sun but doesn't cover the entire sun. We are gonna be talking further more about this in the next slide. The types of solar eclipse are partial solar eclipse, annular solar eclipse, and total solar eclipse. First is the partial solar eclipse. It occurs when the moon is not completely in line with the sun and the earth or the outer shadow of the penumbra of the moon falls on the earth. In our example, it is taken on March 9, 2016 at Quezon City, Philippines. Only a portion of the sun is blocked by the moon, and it occurs when the observer is within the penumbra. Next is the annular solar eclipse. It happens when most of the sun is covered by the moon and appears as a bright ring or annulus. In our example, in time for Father's Day celebration on June 21 this year, 2020, taken with its maximum annular eclipse at 4:23 p.m. in Metro Manila. The moon covers the sun, but the sun can be seen around the edges of the moon. And lastly, the total solar eclipse. It occurs when the moon completely blocks the view of the sun. The inner shadow or the umbra of the moon falls on the earth. In our example, on 1988 in Davao, where the sun is covered completely by the moon. The portion of the earth that is in the umbra experience a total eclipse. Also, a example of total solar eclipse, in 7:30 a.m., no eclipse, the sky is normal. 8:40 a.m., 80% of eclipse, the sky is dark but the clouds are bright. In 9 a.m., 98% of eclipse, the sky and clouds are dark. And in the 9:04 a.m., the totality of eclipse, it occurs the darkness in the morning. And when seeing solar eclipse, we have an important reminder. Looking directly at the sun, even during an eclipse, can cause permanent eye damage. Fortunately, there are ways to enjoy an eclipse safely. The easiest is to use certified eclipse watching glasses or the solar eclipse glasses, which are shaded thousands of times darker than the typical sunglasses. You can also look at the eclipse indirectly by making a pinhole viewer, which you can DIY at your home using a box, aluminum foil, and a paper.
If solar eclipse typically occurs during daytime and much more hazardous due to the excessive radiation emitted by the sun, whether it is an annular or partial solar eclipse, lunar eclipse is much safer because it does not require any precautionary measures such as wearing specialized sunglasses. This phenomenon only occurs during night and appears for a short period of time. For lunar eclipse, The sequence of the alignment of the celestial bodies will be the Earth is in between the Sun and the Moon. Lunar eclipse occur when Earth's shadow blocks the sunlight, which otherwise reflects off Moon. There are three types of lunar eclipse occur across the world. These are total, partial, and penumbral lunar eclipse. First up, let's talk about partial lunar eclipse. This type of eclipse occur when only part of the moon passes through the Earth's umbra. Earth's shadow appears very dark on the side of the moon facing the Earth. During this partial phase, the Sun, Earth, and Moon are not quite perfectly aligned. That is the reason behind why Earth's shadow appears to take a bite of the Moon. Just like what you see in this photo. Next is the penumbral lunar eclipse. Among the three types of lunar eclipse, this could be the least interesting because the Moon is in Earth's faint outer or penumbral shadow. That is the reason why it is much more difficult to observe compared to the partial and total lunar eclipse. If you're a seasoned sky watcher, you likely won't notice the effect in which Moon is subtly shaded by Earth's shadow. And according to some researches, there are about 35% chance of occurrences in this type of eclipse. If we're going to take a look on the image, it forms a slight dark image on the Moon's surface as the Moon falls on penumbral shadow of the Earth. Philippines have also witnessed the recent partial penumbral eclipse last November 30, 2020. The entering of the Moon on Earth's penumbra happened at around 3:32 p.m., maximum eclipse at 5:42 p.m., and the eclipse end at 7:53 in the evening. Lastly, we have total lunar eclipse. It occurs when entire full moon falls within the center of Earth's shadow or umbra, where Sun, Earth, and Moon are perfectly aligned together. In total lunar eclipse, there are about 35% chance of occurrences for this type of eclipse, which can only be seen in a particular region across the globe. The second image here was a sample of total lunar eclipse. It was shot in Manila last January 31, 2018, or known as the Super Blue Blood Moon. The phenomena is special for three reasons. It is the third in a series of super moons, when the moon is closer to Earth in its orbit, known as perigee, and it's about 14% brighter than usual. It is also second full moon of the month, commonly known as the blue moon. Super blue moon will pass through the Earth's shadow to give viewers in the right location a total lunar eclipse. While the moon is in the Earth's shadow, it will take a reddish tint known as blood moon. This dramatic event begins as the moon enters on the Earth's penumbra at 6:49 p.m., partial begins at 7:48 p.m., the greatest eclipse happens at 9:49 p.m., partial closing at 11:11 p.m., and it ends at 12:09 a.m. Let me share this representation made by theTimeAndDate.com about the approximate magnitude and timeline of what total lunar eclipse looks like here in the Philippines. By 7:11 p.m., the total lunar eclipse begins. At 7:19 p.m., it reaches the maximum eclipse. The total lunar eclipse ends at 7:25 p.m. The duration of this event will last for 3 hours and 42 minutes, starting from 6:07 p.m. to 8:49 p.m. This total lunar eclipse will happen in upcoming May 26, 2021. So let's mark our calendar and witness this astronomical event. So that's all for today's lesson. I hope you learned a lot about eclipses. Stay safe, see you next time, and have a great day, grade 7.